Welcome to Grow Organically, the podcast where we host candid discussions with wealth management and financial pros. Each episode, we break down factors that drive growth at wealth management firms and how organizations can continue to be forward thinkers in today's competitive landscape. Grow Organically is brought to you by Catchlight. You can access all our podcasts, including show notes and other resources to keep learning, at catchlight.ai. Dan Gilmartin is the host of Grow Organically and is the head of marketing at Catchlight.
Hi, everyone. My name's Dan Gilmartin. I'm the head of marketing at Catchlight. I've spent the bulk of my career helping businesses find and connect with their next customer. I enjoy leveraging data to help build workflows to drive better outcomes. And I'm very excited to be the host of the Grow Organically podcast. A little bit about why we started this podcast. Through the course of the last couple of years since we launched Catchlight, we've had dozens of conversations with firm leaders, all focused on growth. Invariably, those conversations ultimately lead to the topic of organic growth in particular. And there are lots of questions that center around what should we do and how do we do it? The prevalence of organic growth at industry conferences, trade magazines, conversations with consultants, projects a clear opportunity as well as a certain set of challenges. So the goal for our program is to create a conversation, share insights, best practices, unique perspectives on organic growth from people in the industry. I'm very thrilled to have as our first guest, Yelena Melamed, the head of product and co-founder of Catchlight. Yelena, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, it's nice to be here. I'm excited to be part of the conversation. Certainly been part of the conversation in the industry for 25 years and building products that are highly data-driven for wealth managers. So excited to continue Catchlight and excited to be here.
Excellent. Thanks, Yelena. So let's dive right in. There's a lot going on in the industry. Clearly, lots of changes, headwinds, significant opportunities. And as firms start to think about their plan for the next quarter through the next 5 to 10 years, they're considering things like M&A. They're faced with challenges on customer acquisition cost. There's a breakaway challenge for some of the bigger firms and a huge opportunity in the great wealth transfer. So, Yelena, as you think about these trends, how do you think the firms that are participating in this market should be thinking about them?
Well, I'll reflect on the fact that it is a tumultuous time. I think that any time of change, though, is rich with opportunity, especially for those that seek to thrive. So this cross-section of themes that you mentioned is just really difficult for firms that don't invest in themselves. And so for those that understand their segments, that understand their ICP, and formulate a growth strategy, I think that this is a time that's rich with opportunity. And it's just, a part of being there and to capture it.
I think that theme of investment and opportunity is a very astute one, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But the topic of the podcast is organic growth. So let's focus on that for just a minute. A couple of weeks ago, Wilbur Swan, our CEO at Catchlight, was at the Tiburon CEO Summit here in Boston. And he came back and shared with the team how much the conversations, how much the presentations were all focused on organic growth. The opportunities and challenges we just talked about notwithstanding, how do you think firms are struggling with? What do you think firms are struggling with, Yelena, when it comes to organic growth?
I think from where we sit, we can definitely talk about the more tactics that we tend to hear. It's conversion rate, predictability of organic volume from the various channels where leads do come from, or even the quality of leads, because they are very different. But specifically those that fit the target segments that the firms pursue. But I think often, as I reflect on what we tend to hear from firms more, it's a struggle of figuring out where to get started. What's that one place to begin, especially if you're trying to set a strategy and figure out how to pursue it.
And there are lots of places to begin. There's about 40 firms, plus or minus, that are involved in M&A. So that's sort of limited to what their resources can allow them to focus on. Really, any firm, size and scope, can focus on organic. There's also crossover for a select set of firms, wallet share, referrals. We hear all of those as components of organic growth. So as you think of how firms should be thinking about where to start, or maybe perhaps what to double down on, I think that notion of diversification of their approach to driving growth within the organization is really important. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think just like any investment thesis, it should have some hedge, right? So to me, you're right. There are multiple channels, and they are diverse, and they're diverse in cost, resources that need to be invested, volume. And, I think we all know and love the referral channel as a great source of organic growth. However, it is one that's least predictable because does have ebbs and flows. Lucky is the advisor that can really grow at the same pace that they are getting the referrals at. And so that diversity is important. But knowing how to work with those channels and learn which channels work for you is probably the most interesting one. And so that's what I mean. Where do you start? And it starts with really understanding from the very early beginnings, how does each channel of your leads, each source of your leads perform for you? And being committed to being super experimental, to divest where it makes sense to divest, and invest where you're seeing really great return.
Love that. Love that. Because the next area I wanted to talk about is investing in and of itself. I mean, wealth management as a business is about an advisor working with a client to invest their life savings to create a clear and prosperous future. On the wealth management side of the business, margins seem to be pretty strong. Great wealth transfer, we talked about that a little bit ago, represents a huge opportunity. And so when we think about where and how firms should invest, I'd love to get your perspective specifically around driving organic growth.
Yeah, I think for firms driving for efficiency and driving at that growth with new clients and deepening relationships with their existing clients, we often see really value in the strategic and multifaceted approach to investing into a couple of things. Talent being one, right? Are you equipped with the right resources in order to really pursue those growth goals? Whether it be a talented marketer or a growth officer, or frankly, someone who is oriented towards creating your content, data. Do you understand where you have pain points and what do they look like and what are your benchmarks so that you can adjust and invest or divest, as we talked about? Technology. And where are you spending most of your time? Are you really turning between multiple pieces of technology, and is your data organized to really help you drive out those strategies within that tech stack? And lastly, I think is ultimately client engagement. Clients continue to be the most efficient way to turn around more business, whether it's to penetrate further wallet share or use them as the kind of COI source of additional introductions, additional referrals, either through families or those that they know. But again, it starts with a strong strategy, with some questions that come to mind of how does the firm want to grow? Who and what do you need in order to get that done? What are the current pain points? And again, going back to understanding where you have inefficiencies, where you have opportunities, and what are the detractors and hurdles in getting to improve them, whether it's an area of investing in terms of the source of your leads, or if it's an area of where you're spending time inefficiently, like having inorganized or rather disorganized tech stack, where you're not centralizing your data, you're not getting the data in there early enough so that you could be reactive to with your strategy.
I love three key themes there. One is ICP, your ideal customer persona. Who are they? Who are you best suited to support as a firm? And then the other two, I think, are quite critical: team and talent. the two T's. You have to have the right type of people involved in supporting that strategy, and you have to have the right type of technology to help move those objectives along, and that team in place using that technology is the right way to get to that strategy. I wonder, Yelena, could you share an example of a firm that you've talked to, understanding how they're finding growth and where and how they're investing?
I can. It's fascinating because we work with so many different shapes and sizes of firms, and they are all very unique and very interested in growth. One that comes to mind, just because it was a recent conversation, is a discussion with Mercer. Specifically, Gary Fudum and Brian Powers got on stage at DeVoe. They happened to be customers, but I think it was fascinating to listen to them talk about their process and understanding not just their ICP, who is that customer or customer sets that they wish to pursue, that they want to grow with, but also their talent pool of who is best tasked at sales, who is best tasked at managing the book, how do they want to organize the process in order to really use the best skill sets out of the organizations they have in place today to grow for the shape and size of the organization they want in the future. Sitting in Fidelity Labs as we incubated Catchlight, it's interesting to reflect on how Mercer thinks about their growth. It's very marketing lab-esque is the summary that I would adhere to, because they're very experimental. They're very focused on learnings, and they're not afraid to try things. For example, I know that they had made focus, and they made this example at DeVoe, so I'm not divulging anything that they wouldn't have otherwise shared. They made their focus on women in transition that have gone through a divorce or some sort of separation from partner, and they got really experimental about how do they appeal to that customer set, knowing that they have a unique skill set in servicing people who are in that situation. They experimented with landing pages and ads and processes and workflows in order to attract, serve, diversify service for. It's a great example of not just focusing your resources and being highly experimental, but also understanding your target and pooling in the resources at their best in an efficient, workflow-oriented way to get to the outcomes you seek.
I love the notion of experimentation. As a lifelong marketer, I subscribe to that wholeheartedly. If I'm not A/B testing something today, then I'm doing something wrong, because that's how we learn as marketers, as people focused on growth. The best things we can do is to fail. We're going to learn from that, and then turn that learnings into something else and continue to retest. Getting towards the end here, Yelena, and so clearly lots of opportunity for firms in front of them, and clear struggles, focusing on organic growth, where to focus, how to focus, who do I need, what technology do I need, and trying to carve that path to invest in the business. So I'd like to go in the Wayback Machine, if I could, for a little bit, maybe 3 years back. When you and the team first decided to build this product, what was that aha moment that you recognized back then and said, this is really important. This is worth the time and effort for us to put against solving?
The Wayback Machine is a fun one. I'll go way, way back, even before getting to be in the position to learn and partner with advisors on hand-cranking solutions to help them grow. I spent a big chunk of my career building products for wealth managers, and every time I presented super complex, data-driven one, call it capability in modeling and rebalancing, or something in the conditional order space, I would always expect one question. And that was a consistent one, no matter who I was presenting to, whether it was the home office level or the advisor that will be kind of hands-on, whatever that product was. And it is, how does that help me grow? And the ability to figure that question out is interesting, because Well, the need is most dire right now. The ability to grow with the market volatility or fee compression, or rather, and fee compression, and the changing demographics of both investors and advisors. It's tough, but this positions us in that same rationale, including that demographic shift for investors and advisors, to think about the enormity of the opportunity. It truly is huge to service people who weren't in the money before, that may be through generational wealth transfer, or people getting richer quicker, or just a whole skew of where is the money, or where is help truly needed by a consumer. Again, reflecting that being a great opportunity is one of the reasons why we thought this is a really interesting problem, to help create a data-driven product to help advisors focus, to become more efficient, more effective. But even bigger, making advisors more scalable means it helps more people that desire to work with an advisor, either in a traditional demographic or new demographics. And all of us, myself including, could benefit from a qualified advisor.
Yeah, I think the landscape in this industry has changed significantly from where it was 10 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, when it really just started. Who's practicing this craft? We're having these conversations about great wealth transfer. Who is tomorrow's customer? And as firms start to and continue to evolve, those founders are looking to G2s, are looking to the next generation of advisors to help figure out how they're going to continue to grow the business. And I think organic growth is a key element. Yelena, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate you being the first guest on the podcast and sharing your insights on organic growth. And to our audience, thank you very much for listening today. And remember to follow and rate us on podcasts wherever you listen. Organic growth is a major topic in this industry, lots of questions and lots of opportunities. So we look forward to having you join us again, and excited to help drive the conversation with future guests. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Grow Organically podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit catchlight.ai, where you can access all our podcasts, including show notes and other resources to keep learning. This podcast was produced by Catchlight Insights, LLC. It is for informational and educational purposes only. The content of this podcast does not constitute an offer or recommendation of any securities and is not intended to provide tax, legal, or investment advice. The views expressed are those of the speakers and not necessarily those of Catchlight or its affiliates, and are as of the date indicated, based on the information available at that time, and may change based on market or other conditions. Catchlight does not assume any duty to update any of the information. Catchlight Insights, LLC is an affiliate of Fidelity Investments. However, Catchlight and other third parties mentioned in the podcast are independent entities and not affiliated. Catchlight does not endorse any investment advisor or provide advice or recommendations to any prospective or existing client of an investment advisor as to the selection or retention of that investment advisor. The information is not intended for any person or entity in any jurisdiction where the distribution or use of such information would be contrary to local law. Third-party trademarks referenced herein are the property of the respective owners. All others are the property of Catchlight Insights, LLC, copyright 2024 Catchlight Insights, LLC. All rights reserved.